9 months, 16 months, 19 months without getting paid.
So you see how much kidnappers are eating from victims.
My thing is, government should, I think all the stakeholders in that sector, they need to be spoken to, and we sit together and appeal to them.
The 3% for the oil producing community is too low.
So it is support that is needed. And once you get the support, your airlines will blossom.
This is Nigeria. You need to give people sense of belonging.
Good morning and welcome to Inside Nigeria. Today, Wednesday, the 1st of September. Gradually, we've entered the Ember month.
Yes, gradually going to an end.
Yes. Welcome to Inside Nigeria, where we'll be deciding major headline page stories on Nigeria's influential newspaper Leadership, its sister publication, National Economy, and other papers. But before we do that, I want to introduce my co-host, as usual, on the program, and his name is Bode Gbadebo.
Yeah, Winfred, good morning. It's good and nice seeing you taking the driver's seat today.
Yes. It's a bright new day in this month of September. The weather is already sunny. It promises to be good today. Unlike yesterday evening, it was raining throughout. And of course, we have our guest analyst with us in the studio, Mr. Jide Ojo. You're welcome, sir.
It's a pleasure, Winifred. It's a pleasure to be here.
Welcome
Happy
to
New Month.
Same to you, sir. Welcome to Inside Nigeria.
So without wasting much time, we are going to Leadership. Leadership newspaper, nation's most influential newspaper, and it has on its cover today. And don't forget, the Southern governors had already given September 1st as its deadline for anti-open grazing law. And Leadership is capturing that today, September 1st. No going back on open grazing ban, Southern governors declare. No going back on open grazing ban, Southern governors declare. Irrespective of the fact that some governors are yet to sign the bill into law. And the story has on its caption, on the rider, Governor Akeredolu signs bill into law to beat deadline. Akwa Ibom, Enugu, Imo, Osun, Oyo yet to pass bill. Delta, Rivers, Ogun to deal with violators. No more herdsmen in Ebonyi, says Commissioner. Katsina bans interstate movement of herders. Niger State closes cattle markets.
Yeah, Jide, September 1 today is the deadline put forward by Southern Governors Forum to implement the anti-open grazing law. But quite interesting, or rather strange, only about 3 or 4 governors have actually put machinery in motion to see to the implementation of the law effective from today. Ondo, Delta, Rivers, Ogun.
Yeah,
Majority of the 18 of the states are not decided. So, and of course, just 2 days ago, we saw the report about Mieti Allah saying, we will not obey your anti-open grazing law, trying to dare the southern state governors. Now, are we headed for a showdown in southern states?
Well, I will say that one thing is to pass the law, the other is even to implement.
Yes.
But if you look in the southern part, we have about 17 states, and only 5 have been mentioned in your report, in your newspaper report that hasn't passed. We are talking of Akwa Ibom, Enugu, Imo, Osun, and Oyo. So, Governor Nyesom Wike signed his own into law about 2 weeks ago. Akeredolu, I would have expected, if he did the chairman of Southern Governors Forum did not pass. So he knew what he had to pressure his state House of Assembly to do all they could. But you see, this is just one leg of the whole episode. I think the federal government is the one that should take the lead. But there must be a transition period for this to be effective.
Mm.
You know, these people who are cattle herders have all their lives been living uh, as a pastoralist. They are just, so to change that tradition, to change that culture of animal husbandry is going to be very challenging. But the good news is that there is now livestock transformation plan of government, federal government, which has kicked off. Kasina got 6 billion. They said that, but you got 6 billion. The man said, no, I never got any money. But at least I know Kasina governor has admitted receiving 6 billion to kickstart the ranching. And I think Nasarawa State must have received. Kogi has always pledged support for federal government. The most important thing is this. You don't expect that the law that the governor of Ondo State signed into law yesterday would then all of a sudden you won't see any other on the first day of September. No, there must be a transition period, maybe 6 months, maybe 1 year. The most important thing is this: why are we even making this law? It's because of the persistent clashes between herders and farmers, and unless we are able to dispassionately and apolitically deal with the issue. We need both the herders and the farmers in the food value chain. I'm sure, Winifred, if you have a meal without protein, you will not like it. There is in my part and your part of the world, there are people who call Ajima Jason. Ajima Jason happens to be a very popular comedian and theater group, leader of the theater group in Oyo State in time past. What Ajima Jason means is that this is somebody that wakes up and never eats without meat. He will never eat without meat. So
I think I fall into that.
yeah. So what I'm saying is that we need both the herders and the farmers in the food value chain. The most important thing is, even for states that have not yet passed anti-open grazing law, how do we settle the herders farmers rift? How do we find an amicable resolution if a herder grazed on a farmer's crop? How do we compensate the farmer? How do we resolve the issue in a way that it does not escalate into tension and violence and killings? That is what is more important, because one thing is to have the law in place. Benue has had the law in place for over 3 years.
Ekiti State too.
Peace has not been experienced. There are still killings. Ekiti State under Ayo Fayose has the anti-open grazing law. But how has Governor Kayode Fayemi implemented that? He's the chairman of Nigerian Governors Forum. Can he afford to just chase out every herder in that state? So what we need is, there are different layers of ensuring peaceful coexistence of herders and farmers. So we need to tread very carefully. I'm not against anti-open grazing law. It's a child of necessity, just like when we had Amotekun in the Southwest. It is to complement the police and other security agencies. But more importantly is that we need to find a lasting solution to these herders and farmers clashes.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, before we move to our sister publication, I want to find out from you. Do you see a coalition between the federal government's directive to trace the grazing routes and this anti-grazing bill in place?
It will seem so, Winifred. It will seem so, because I don't know to what end and for what purposes you are retracing a grazing route that have largely been overtaken by development. Many of those grazing routes have been parceled out to industries, factories, to even housing developers where they have built mass housing. If you find those routes, will you go and demolish all the houses, all the factories, all the schools, all the whatever may have been on that grazing route, and you declare them illegal structures and then reclaim it? It's not going to work. It's an antediluvian way of doing things. That's my own personal opinion, because we have since the train has left the station. You cannot bring us back, because that 1965 legislation is subservient to the 1978 Land Use Act, which has now vested all lands in the state government. So, if as at 1965, federal government allegedly owns the land, and could say these are places I've dedicated as grazing reserves, by 1978, there is a new legislation which has put all land, which is why you see governor of Ebonyi, governor of Rivers saying we don't have land for open grazing. We don't have. We don't even have land for ranching. If you want to do ranching, we do not have land for ranching. So what I think is, I've asked myself, to what end is that presidential directive that you go and start retracing old grazing routes, when even governor like that of Kano, His Excellency Abdullahi Ganduje, has said, look, uh, if you want to bring peace into this country, open grazing is not the way to go. And he has taken the initiative, even before this kickstarting of livestock transformation plan. He has set aside huge chunks of land. In fact, he invited his brother elders. He said, I'm Fulani like you. I don't know whether you've watched the video. Say, I'm Fulani like you. Come to Kano. I will provide space for you to rear your animal. He said, look, you are moving about with a mobile bank and you don't know it. And that's the truth. 200 heads of cattle, multiply that by maybe 200,000 per cattle, multiply that by 200. Is that not a mobile bank? Some microfinance bank don't even have that kind of amount in their vault, and they don't have that kind. So what we are saying is that I don't know to what extent the federal government is retracing that old grazing route. Maybe it's possible in some areas, maybe it's not going to be possible in some areas, but I think what the federal government needs to do is how to fast track the implementation of livestock transformation plan in such a way that for every state, particularly those states where there have been serious issues of elders farmers clashes, like in Plateau, it's all about it. Benue, you can find a way to ensure support elders to acquire, if it means acquiring, buying huge chunks of land. Virgin lands are not very expensive. It's only when you want to buy in the urban centers that you pay arm and leg. In many very thick forests, you can get 10 acres for as little as 1 million naira. Very small amount of money. But the most important thing is equity, fairness, and justice. When there are conflicts, let's deal with it dispassionately. And for the elders who have gone rogue, we need to fish them out. It's not all elders that are bad. Many of them, in fact, they will tell you, even in Benue, in Katsina, in Plateau, they say, look, these Fulani, we have been living with them for centuries. There have never been serious issue. But it's just few elements amongst them who have gone rogue, who went into kidnapping for ransom, that are giving the larger Fulani population a bad name. But I think it's an issue that government at different levels can resolve.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jide, for that analysis. Now we are moving to our sister publication, National Economy.
Of course, on the front page of National Economy, this one is a cheering news. African Development Bank rallies support for pharmaceutical manufacturing in Nigeria. Others with $3 billion. AFDB, that's African Development Bank, rallies support for pharmaceutical manufacturing in Nigeria. Others African countries with $3 billion. This is a package from AFDB, Nigerian-led AFDB Professor Akiwumi Adeshina, now bringing a package worth $3 billion for Nigeria and some African countries to build capacity in the area of pharmaceutical manufacturing against the backdrop of COVID-19 pandemic.
It's a very good development, very heartwarming news, but we need to unpack what this 3 billion actually is meant for. Is it to for research and development, for research into maybe COVID-19 vaccine,
Yes, vaccine
or
production.
vaccine production, or because we have other problems that are even more than COVID-19 facing us. Issue: can we have vaccination for cholera, for instance? I don't know whether you've thought about it. This cholera has killed close to 1,005 people this year alone. And it's just an epidemic. It's not a pandemic.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why
Come and go.
the issue of meningitis, when it's dry season now, in Gwagwalada, the hospitals will be full because it's on the equator, and quite a number of people persistently, yearly, perennially suffer from meningitis because of
Lassa
the
fever.
Lassa fever. In the over 50 years, we've been dealing with Lassa fever. So these are researches that we need to consummate, possibly find, as we found a vaccine for polio, and we were able to exit the paying countries, Pakistan, Afghanistan, India, and Nigeria, who were the last four to exit polio. If we can also do that for Lassa fever, for meningitis, for cholera, for COVID-19, that would be great. Every support is expected, but you see, my own worry is ease of doing business in Nigeria. Access to land is a huge challenge. Issue of insecurity is a huge challenge. Research output. We have so many research institutes that are all their research outputs are just gathering dust on the
In
shelf.
the cupboard, yes.
They are not. They have not been able to push out the product, to be able to mass produce for our use. And prevention, they say, is better than cure. So we need all the support for pharmaceutical companies, because when you look at how much is also being spent to import pharmaceutical items into Nigeria. I'm sure we don't have needle production in Nigeria. Maybe it's also, imported from abroad.
Yeah,
and all
needle,
of
needle
them.
is important.
Needle-
Because I
needle-
remember a few months ago, the needle manufacturers in Nigeria approached the Senate to come up with a directive or law to stop importation so that the local one can be patronized.
Imagine if we are,
A previous administration actually said gave 3 billion naira to for pharmaceutical companies so that they can
so
meet
I
up
recall
with-
that after the
Yes.
outbreak of COVID-19 last year, there were incentives given to pharmaceutical companies. But what I've asked myself, for instance, we are spending huge resources to import COVID-19 vaccine. If African countries under the African Union had come together, put committee of experts together to, produce their own vaccine, and I'm sure in because this COVID-19 is not about to go. That's why you see people's nonchalance. It's not about to go. The Spanish flu of the over 100 years ago, 1918 to 1920, it lasted for 2 years. But you see, COVID-19, the way I see it, will become like malaria in the nearest possible
Become
time.
part of us.
It's become part of us because yesterday there was news that in South Africa they found another variant, C12, C12 variant. We are still dealing with Delta variant, so mutations will happen. But what I'm saying is that we as African, if not as Nigeria, can get together. That's huge substance. So far, we have been lucky that US and European countries have been donating vaccines to us. 500,000 doses here, 1 million doses there. But it's far, far below what is required to get to herd immunity in Nigeria. Herd immunity is that you need to vaccinate about 80 to 90% so that everybody will be safe. But not even in US, with all the capacity, with all the US has got only 51% of those who have been vaccinated, at least with minimum of one dose. Those who have got 2 doses are just about 25 or 30% of fully vaccinated Americans. But for instance, the Edo State government is saying if you are not fully vaccinated, you can't access some public places, and that has generated a lot of protest in the last 2-3 days. What we need to do is to also produce a vaccine that Africans, because we need to know the pigment of our own skin is different from those abroad. And we are lucky. We are lucky thus far. In Africa, we have not had the kind of mortality that was initially predicted for Africa. You know, unlike America has lost over 500,000. Over still counting. In fact, as at the time, if you listen to Joe Biden's inaugural speech on January 20, he said America has lost more men than it lost in the First and Second World War to COVID-19. And the number is still kind of, although it has de-escalated compared, I mean, in the last 6, 7, 8 months, only about 100,000 people. But their lives, they are human beings that with potentials that we have lost. So what we are saying is that Africa has thus far been very fortunate, but we should not push our luck too far. This kind of 3 billion, we can invest it in vaccine production.
It's not for Nigeria.
No, it's not for Nigeria. Oh, that's why I'm saying Africa.
Yes.
We can harness our resources, because look at what our health minister said we need to buy vaccine. It's in excess of 400 billion. If we have spent a fraction of that to set up a committee of experts, this one that we have about 12 different vaccines out. Russia has produced its own vaccine. China has produced its own vaccine. EU has produced Pfizer Biotech, this Moderna, Johnson and Johnson, about 12 different. Madagascar, we could have helped Madagascar to review that its initial claim of having produced vaccine, help to show up that, and maybe our population in Africa is about 1.3 billion. Do you think if we have a breakthrough, we will not be able to safeguard our health by producing this vaccine? So, but the issue for me is it's a welcome development. We thank Dr. Akinwumi Adesina for packaging that support to Africa, his home base, to be able to produce more drugs for the teeming population. But we hope that this money will be judiciously spent.
We just hope so too, Mr. Jide, because Africans are not getting their acts right. Anyway, away from national economy, we are moving to the Guardian newspaper. And today, Wednesday, September 1st, the Guardian newspaper has on its cover, federal government set to sanction Nigerians refusing COVID-19 vaccination. Federal government set to sanction Nigerians refusing COVID-19 vaccination. We have court restraints Obaseki from making vaccination compulsory. Edo civil servants get 7-day ultimatum to get inoculated. New C12 COVID-19 variant not spreading, says WHO. That is today's Guardian newspaper.
Before you say anything, before we even brought the front page of the Guardian, I think we need to start interrogate ourselves. Remember, immediately after the outbreak of COVID-19, one of the immediate measures put in place by the government through the central bank was to make money available for Nigerian researchers to investigate and come up with solutions. Up to today, we didn't know who got what and what is the outcome of these research. Now we have another interesting story on the front page of Guardian. Federal government set to sanction Nigerians over refusal to take COVID-19 vaccination. And already we are seeing the drama playing out in Edo State. So, what's your take?
For me, this is just federal government blowing out here. It cannot sanction anybody because we don't even have enough doses of vaccine. So how do we have? I'm fully vaccinated, for instance, and I still carry my nose mask everywhere I go. So it's not like I'm saying this to protect myself. I'm fully vaccinated, but I know the fact that even in US, in the state of Wisconsin, the governor is even inducing citizens to take it with $100 incentive. So if you are fully vaccinated, you get $100. But we are not incentivizing people. We are not even talking to them As people still have a lot of doubt about the efficacy and efficiency of this. After I was fully vaccinated, so many people were creating fear in me. They said one researcher said everyone that is vaccinated will die within 2 years.
Yes.
There is this one that says, oh, this one got vaccinated and he
Right.
developed all manner of sickness. Thus far, by the grace of Almighty God, I'm up and I'm running. I don't have any reason to regret my ticket. But you know, and people use one or two instances of people who possibly have underlying sicknesses or who have weak organs. You may not have sickness, but do you know that if I am 70-year-old, my organs will not be as strong as when I'm in my 50s
Yes.
now? So, because one or two persons who are vaccinated eventually caught COVID-19 and died, people say it's not efficacious. You know, don't use those isolated instances. In US, they will tell you statistics. That's one country I like to quote because they are battling seriously with this issue of COVID-19. In US, it has been proven time and again that majority of people who are dying today in US are the unvaccinated one. Majority of them are from the unvaccinated population. What does that tell you? If you are fully vaccinated and you still safeguard yourself, it doesn't mean that you become reckless. You start going to public places without wearing your nose mask, without keeping physical distance. You are, I was praying for this vaccine to come, and when it came, I never tarried to access the vaccine, which is free of charge. Now, people need to be convinced. Sanctioning people when you don't have enough doses. How many doses do we have in circulation? Johnson & Johnson is less than 1 million doses, maybe 800 and something thousand. Moderna, I don't know, maybe it's 2 million, 1 point something million. AstraZeneca that I took, maybe another 4 million allegedly came into the country. Meanwhile, these doses, when you say 4 million, it's for 2 million people.
Exactly. 2 doses.
Because it's two doses. So if you have the first dose and you don't get the second, it's as useless as you are not fully vaccinated. That's what they call full vaccination. You must take the full, unless Johnson & Johnson. And Johnson & Johnson, we must also not forget that this vaccine do not have 100% efficacy. It has never been said to have 100%. Some have 80%. Like Johnson & Johnson is about 66% efficacy. That means if you put 10 people together, you are likely going to see 7 people that will so 3 may not really be protected. So what we are saying invariably is this: for government to be able to enforce, it has to procure sufficient number of doses so that when you have enlightened the public and they are willing and ready, there is no commotion, there is no racketeering. You know, initially, because of the ravaging COVID-19 in India, as at the time we got our first dose in around March, April, that in Lagos, there was already a racket that will tell you we don't have enough. So people are getting tipped, people are collecting bribe to be vaccinated. And that's what will likely happen when you stampede people. Because once you don't have enough, the few that is available will be hoarded. Then you have to be dealing with people at the backyard. Okay, guy, you want to travel? Okay, I feel help you, but now 10K, now 10K. So urgent 10K, urgent 20K, just to get vaccine.
So thank you so much, Mr. Dide. We have to go on a short break now. When we return, we'll be looking at the last paper of today's Sun newspaper. Don't go away. Stay tuned. and our public analyst, Jide Uju, in the studio.
It's a pleasure, Winifred.
Thank you.
So, Bode, you to take the
Yeah,
last
of course.
speaker for the week today.
The Sun, our Daily Sun. And of course, on the front page of Daily Sun this morning is another interesting story. Masari shorts major roads, ban cattle transportation. Masari, of course, is Katsina State Governor Aminu Bello Masari. Masari shorts major roads, ban cattle transportation in Katsina State. Jide, you must have heard the story yesterday. I know one of the roads, Sheme to Kankara, which has become a den for kidnappers, is one of the roads shut by the state government.
You can't shut the road. I think these are just desperate measures. We need to fish out these bandits and deal with them. It's like federal government shutting down Kaduna Abuja road because of bandits. How do you want people to commute? People are not going to live as islands or in isolation. People have to move from one place to the other, and it's even dangerous when people have to move on road people have to trek from one community to the other. That made them more susceptible. What we should have, what Masari should have done, is to seek the deployment of more armed personnel to protect the road, or peradventure do what his brother governor in Southwest did, setting up an Amatekun, a security network, which is more like local policing.
Yes, he said so. That they are training about 3,000.
But until then, you cannot lock down a road. I don't know whether you understand what I'm saying. People in those rural communities, you said Malumfashi to. I understand where he said he will not allow motorcycles and keke napep. But even at that, if you don't allow this, in many states, what they have done is ban motorbikes, but allow keke napep because they know that keke cannot run as fast as motorbike. But where you now ban keke, ban motorbikes, and block the road, how will people commute from one state, one community to the other? I think that is a desperate measure. I understand. This man is frustrated.
Yes.
And this is a home state of the president, where, I keep asking myself, the North, as we say, is in charge of the major and most security networks in Nigeria. And yet they are the worst afflicted. It then tells you the story that there is a linkage between the elite and the people in the community. Years back, when rural banditry started, it's just after all, I'm living in Abuja, after all, I'm living in town. But now, even in town, we are no longer safe. But one good news, which I think we need to bring to the attention of our listening public, is the induction of the 6 Super Tucano aircraft yesterday, which they have promised will help a lot in the fight against insecurity, against banditry, against insurgents. Maybe now that will provide an area cover. They can do surveillance, because what I learned is that Super Tucano is like a silver bullet. It can do surveillance, it can do interdiction, it can do so many things. So if we have that and we can deploy it to effective use, maybe it will help. But shutting down the road, how do you expect people? Because people will need to commit for whatever reason.
Yeah,
people need
private owners, private vehicle to ply the road.
But that is
short
even
to
more
commercial.
dangerous. When you now have very few vehicles on the road, the fact that there are very few vehicles means that you can be an easy target. Of commercial vehicles, what people will do now is that they will go and repaint their vehicles into normal. They won't have commercial. But I think it's desperate measure. I think what they need to do is to set up either local vigilante or state policing system. Many of them now, at least I watched a couple of them, a serving senator and governor of Niger State saying, talking in Kaduna yesterday when they went to pay a condolence visit to Ibn Nana, whose son was murdered in Kaduna over the weekend. They were now saying that there is a need for state police. This is what we have been saying from time immemorial, that they said, no, it will be abused. There is need for state policing system.
We can't shy away from it now.
See, I spoke with somebody from Police Service Commission last week, and he said the entire police force in Nigeria is about 350,000. For a population of 206 million conservative estimate, that's grossly inadequate. So if you have to complement that, now federal government is saying every year recruit 10,000. By the time this administration will end, will be just like maybe 350, 370,000. That will still be grossly inadequate. We need no less than 1 million minimally. But do we have the money to pay them if we recruit 1 million by federal government? But a state like Lagos, with huge resources, can establish its own state police. Rivers can, Kano, even Kaduna should be able to have resources. And many of these states have already set up what they call police trust fund, police equipment trust fund, even before the federal government. And no Delta has police equipment trust fund, Lagos has police equipment trust fund, Ekiti has police equipment trust fund. So rather than using this money to support federal policing system, if they have their own state police, people can be asked to donate to fund that policing system. Make sure that, we cannot be talking of federalism and everything is centralized. We need to decentralize the security network. That's why we will have a better, security of lives and property. But I empathize with the governor of Katsina State. It's a very lamentable situation. It's very frustrating because all the gimmicks, all the effort, including even waiving amnesty at these bandits, has not worked. Record the photo that trended, was it last year, where he went and dialogue with some of the bandit leaders of the bandits, but it has not worked. Even where they initially agreed to shield their sword, many of them have gone back because the kind of money they are making from banditry is something government alone cannot give them. So what we need to do now is to find a more creative way to solving our security problem. Locking down people is not a solution because when you are locked down, these people still move. Look, in the Bay State, Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe, curfew had been imposed since 2009. But this insurgent will still move in convoy of 1,500 motorbikes on the road and still attack unchallenged. So what is the whole essence of curfew order? So what we need to do is to be more creative with dealing with, and what I've always advocated is software and hardware approach. Software approach provide jobs, provide support, like this social investment program, remove more people from poverty, find a way to empower people economically so that more people will not be recruited to join the criminal gang. Let's do something about our porous borders. The border is so porous that people can traffic easily in arms and ammunition, including drugs, and they are unchallenged. We have an open. Yet in 2017 or 18, there is what they call e-border project, where the Federal Executive Council budgeted 52 billion. I recall that it was Vice President Oshobajo, the then acting president, that sat at that federal executive where they approved 52 billion for e-border project. What has happened to that? If we don't cut off the supply chain, the small arms and light weapons floating around in Nigeria is humongous, and that is scary, and people will put it to wrong use. So we need, as we are dealing with acquiring more arsenal, more hardware, more recruiting more people, training them as security operatives, we also must take more people out of poverty, more people out of unemployment, because these are the push factor.
I call the flow. That's the order.
All right, Jide.
Thank you so much.
Before we allow him to go, there is one interesting story on some of the dailies this morning, and we have to go back to the front page of leadership to see that story. Jide, would like you to weigh in on the issue of JAM abolishing its cutoff mark. Just yesterday, JAM announced its abolition of cutoff mark, leaving the institution with the sole prerogative to determine what become cutoff mark. We can see that story on the front page of
Well,
leadership.
well, well
Okay, UTME, JAM, cancel uniform cutoff marks.
yes, cancellation of this is long coming because this issue of JAM being the housemaster or principal to all tertiary institutions and setting cutoff marks have never really worked. It hasn't really worked because at the end of the day, individual institutions still decide to do what they wanted to do. JAM has been around since 1978 and it has reformed, it has taken on quite a number of responsibilities. But this issue, I hope it will lay to rest the post UTME that is being done. Because if you are now in charge of your cutoff, you then don't need to do another round of examination.
Exactly.
If you trust JAM enough to conduct the exam for you, you understand?
And as empowered by the law.
But as empowered by the law. So JAM is like a consultant. You want to recruit people to leadership, and you hire Gidi Ojo to come and do interview. And I said to you, these are the people that this is what they score and then you reserve the right to choose whoever amongst them. I'm just to present to you how I rate them. You understand? Now, it's I believe that this removal of cutoff for JAM should put an end to issue of post UTME screening. The screening I will expect schools to do now is credentials, not to start setting another round of examination, because I found that very, very confusing. Why do you need to ask students to pay 5,000 or 3,000 to come and do another post UTME, and then some universities will now grade you on what to score in JAM, what to score with UTME, what to score in WAEC or NECO, and then use that on the base. That is the confusion where people have said, this JAM score is nothing to write home about. So let's hope that it will bring some sanity in the admission process and that we'll have a better education sector at the end of the day.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jide. Just what you said is just about decentralization. When you said that was what came to my mind, just like we were talking about policing, state policing. It's the same thing. JAM cannot set exam at the end of the day, still give cutoff mark for all universities. So universities should be left to do their own thing, to do their own cutoff thing, and carry on with the admission of students. Thank you so much. I think that is about what we have today on Inside Nigeria. Tomorrow is another date with us. Stay tuned. Everybody, you have anything to say?
Yeah, it's time to go. Bye bye from my side.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day.
Thank you.